The Canadian Rockies, chiseled by water, wind, and ice, through eons of time stand a massive barrier, a formidable challenge. Through the mists of prehistory, the Indians came over the ice bridge from Asia. They stood in awe at their first sight of this great range and named them the Shining Mountains. Today, millions feel the same awe at their first approach to the Rockies. Much of what the voyageurs saw, we see, unspoiled, untarnished. In a world crowded with people, we seek rediscovery. In an ever grayer society, we long for heightened awareness. In a world that exalts the mediocre, some seek a greater challenge than that available in contests pitting man against man. They choose instead to take on nature at her most majestic. First came the intrepid explorers, voyageurs, fur traders, adventurers, scientists, and artists. Trailblazing this insurmountable barrier, unlocking the untold wealth of the West. Voyageurs came searching by the river highway over uncharted waters. They pushed ahead, always listening for the roar of the rapids round the next bend. Treacherous, violent rivers, a lifeline for all, a death trap for many. Today, voyageurs come from every corner of the world to challenge the rivers of the Rockies. For more than a year, 10 members of the famed German Alpine Kayak Club have prepared to test themselves and their equipment in the wild waters of the Malin and Fraser rivers. Ranked among the best kayakists in the world, they have challenged some of the world's greatest whitewater runs. Their kayaks are especially designed with a stouter nose for toughness and handling. Members of the Alpine Kayak Club never compete in organized events. Their sport is pitting their own ever-heightening abilities against these indomitable waters. They spend as much time on the river bank observing the water and planning their run as they do in the run itself. A safety man is always positioned in the calm waters below. Each man surveys the raging torrent and rates it on a danger scale. Then they vote on whether they should attempt the run. Their first run of the Malines is rated with a danger factor of 4 out of 6. They complete it easily. A greater menace lies ahead, the mighty Fraser River, which they had come 8,000 miles to face. Overlander Falls, a 13-meter vertical drop, 100 tons of water per second, a force strong enough to crush a man and his kayak. Never before attempted, never before conquered. Adventurers with the courage to dream had come 8,000 miles to challenge the impossible and win. The hush of winter approaches and shrouds the Rockies in a mist of amber and gold. It was a time when early pioneers stocked provisions and took shelter from the environment's bitter brutality.
In the northern Alberta town, where the sun goes up and down,
by the turn of the century, the railroad had opened up this new frontier, and with it came a hardy breed of people seeking adventure and their first glimpse of the Rockies. Towns sprang up round the train stations, full of outfitters, entrepreneurs, and mountain guides ready to deliver adventure. Ski slopes were cut by hand on mountain faces. Millions of enthusiasts were drawn to ski the dry white powder of the Rockies. As the sport grew, the slopes became choked with a crush of skiers. The true adventurer pushed further in search of slopes untouched by man or ski. Like adventurers before them, Rick Bowie, Lonnie Clettle, and Greg Athens come in search of that dream. They are helicoptered into an isolated cabin where they meet Tom McCready, a seasoned mountaineer.
Supplies over here. Biffy out behind the cabin on the right, and the wood piles behind the cabin. Everybody's got to work in the camp. All right, you're on your own now.
Ski touring is one of the most adventurous sports in the Rockies and allows the challenger access to untrampled splendor. The bindings of touring skis are designed for climbing. Once at the summit, the heel can be snapped firmly into place.
coffee left there, Tom?
Certainly do. You know, on July the 11th, 1909, a chap by the name of Reverend George Kinney started out from Edmonton with $2.85 in his pocket, 3 pack horses, loaded with 3 months' supply of food, heading for Mount Robson. One night, a chap by the name of Curly Phillips rode into his camp wearing a big Stetson and a big silver guide's badge, and he convinced Curly that he should go with him through to Mount Robson. So they went over Yellowhead Pass and up the Moose River, cutting their way up through the windfalls and using some phrases that packers used to get their pack horses through the wild country, and finally arriving at Mount Robson. Now, he and Curly had made 3 attempts to climb the mountain, and weather and storms and what have you turned them back, and they finally made the ascent. And when they were standing up there, Kinney put his ice axe down through a cornice, made a little hole, and he was looking down through this hole, thousands of feet down to Berg Lake. But they were never credited with the ascent, because they found out later they were about 80 feet from the summit.
The Reverend Kenny and Curly Phillips did pave the way for others who followed their path. Mount Robson, the highest peak in the Canadian Rockies, standing 13,700 feet, was officially conquered in July 1913 by a team courageously led by Conrad Kane. Mount Alberta, looming over the Columbia ice fields, a gray tombstone jutting towards the heavens. It is a mountain of legend, the last of the great peaks in the Canadian Rockies to surrender to climbers. Early journals record the frustrations of climbers forced to give up, faced with bad weather and dangerous snow conditions. But in 1925, a Japanese team succeeded in claiming her summit. It had taken 3 weeks to get to its base and 16 hours of climbing over 2 days to reach the peak. Their climb fueled another legend. A story passed among alpinists that the party had left a silver-headed ice axe bearing the initials of the Crown Prince of Japan, now the Emperor Hirohito. 23 years passed before the mountain was conquered again. The second group, a party of Americans, conquered her in 1948 and found the legendary silver ice axe at the summit. With mountain routes well mapped by guides, climbers came from every corner of the world to test themselves against the peaks of the Rockies. Many came with years of climbing experience and enjoyed the exhilaration of reaching the summits. Others, less experienced, tried treacherous climbs without the aid of guides or proper equipment, only to find themselves in impossible situations.
Occasionally people will go out because we might get a break and you get people going out climbing and that they think the weather's going to clear and they don't know that there's another wave of snow and rain right behind it, and that's how people get caught. It'll change in a matter of an hour or two just like that. When people get geared up properly to go out and do it, and they take all the precautions possible, and they get in trouble, we will sure do everything possible to try and help the person out. Sometimes we get into situations where you're working on a rescue or something where the weather gets bad and it starts to get a little bit hairy. I got caught on a ledge last fall, I guess it was. We were looking for a fellow who was missing, and it suddenly closed in so fast that we couldn't take off again, so we had to shut down and tie the rotor blade down and wait about 3.5 hours in a real bad snowstorm.
mountain belongs to no man, not even to the first to reach her summit. Every face is another challenge, every assault another contest with the mountain's awesome arsenal. Wind, rain, sleet, snow, brutal cold, hundreds of tons of ice. Man has always had to dream, to stand so near the sky that he can reach out and touch it. The new generation of climbers, equipped with front point crampons and modern ice axes, has pushed back the frontier of what may be climbed and confronts ever more treacherous snow and ice conditions in a sense never dreamed possible by early adventurers. Snowdome sits near the Athabasca tongue in the Columbia ice fields, its ice cap more than a kilometer thick. From its slopes, melting snow flows through rivers into 3 different oceans. One of its faces remains unchallenged and unnamed, a 1,000-meter climb up snow and sheer ice. And it is this prize that John Laughlin has set his sights on. Every detail of the 3-day expedition is meticulously planned, even down to the precise angle of his ice axe. For John and his partner, Dave McNabb, it is a 4-hour hike over dangerous glacial terrain to the point where the ascent begins. At last, the first pitch. 300 meters of clear blue ice. The ice is soft and potentially dangerous, breaking away. lead climber secures an ice screw every 5 meters and sets in proper protection in case of a slip.
Okay, I'm up.
Ascending about 25 meters, he waits for the second man to join him. Then the second takes over the lead. The Columbia ice fields, this massive area of ice, stretching hundreds of square miles, has a horrendous power. It creates its own weather and can trap the inexperienced, the unprotected. The day passes. The sun's intensity dims, and the ice face acquires a frightening quality. The ice contracts and releases spindrift avalanches, and chunks of ice of 200 tons and more may crash down the mountain at any moment, taking everything in their path. The conditions are too dangerous to continue the climb. As quickly as they can in such extreme conditions, they set up a bivouac on a rock ledge. Below them, unnoticed by them, fall tons of ice and snow. The intensity of man's relationship with nature can change him and bring to him a heightened awareness. The more severe the environment, the greater the awareness, of what it means to be alive. Morning arrives with high winds, blowing snow and still colder temperatures. At this point, turning back could be as dangerous as going ahead. Having come so far, they elect to press on.
Okay, just give me a second. It's going to warm up my hands here.
The sun's rays burn off the low-hanging clouds and warm the massive field of ice. John and Dave confidently press for the summit. Beyond the last steep stretch of snow and rock, they reach the final 300 meters, a crystal blue sérac. Below them, a sheer drop of 700 meters, lies a bed of ice 1 million years old.